What's going on, everyone? My name is Nicholas Merton here at DataDash, and today is February 9th of 2022. Well, folks, I hope you all are having a fantastic day wherever you are, and in today's video, I want to spend some time to talk about what may be the biggest macro event in crypto markets for 2022. Today, we're going to be talking about the recent news out of the DOJ, or Department of Justice of the United States, that it had seized over $3.6 billion worth of Bitcoin and may be well on its way towards seizing a total of $4.5 billion from the Bitfinex hack in 2016. Now, I want to go ahead and explain a little bit of the backstory here to give you guys all the clarity you need to understand what happened, how the DOJ seized this amount of Bitcoin, and outside of that as well, talk about some key things, why this is an incredibly significant event for crypto markets. I want to talk again a little bit about the actual hack itself and some of the craziness around it, and most importantly, talk about what this means for price. So we've got lots of things to dive into this episode, guys. You guys won't want to miss it. Let's go ahead and dive into it. So for those who may not know, Bitfinex as an exchange was one of the legacy titans in the crypto space. It still is a relevant player in the crypto markets today. Maybe not the biggest exchange, but it still holds a major foothold in the crypto space. But taking a step back, in 2016, there weren't too many kids on the block when it came to crypto. Sure, you had exchanges like Coinbase, you had, for example, Bitstamp, a couple other players, but Bitfinex was up there as being one of the largest exchanges in the crypto space and basically took the position that Mt. Gox, or Magic the Gathering Online Exchange had in Bitcoin markets back in 2013 before it had been hacked. Well, because it was the largest target in the crypto space, the largest platform, and one of the largest platforms by deposits, it made it a prime target for attacks. And Bitfinex, throughout its history, has had two major hacks on the platform, this being one of them, where they had over 120,000 Bitcoin stolen from the exchange. Well, now, things are being made right. The vast majority of the Bitcoin has come back under the control of the DOJ, and they are in direct communications with Bitfinex and other lawmakers in order to make sure that things are done properly. Now, I do want to expand on what has actually happened here, who the hackers were, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But I want to go ahead and first focus on the significance of this event. Some people think, okay, Nick, let's be honest, the hack back then was only worth a couple tens of millions of dollars, and that's an interesting perspective thing to think about. We're talking about 2016, where Bitcoin was worth a lot less, right? This was a couple tens of millions of dollars and really didn't make the headlines, similar to how maybe Mt. Gox didn't make the headlines it would nowadays if the Bitcoin were worth what it is today, all right? But I want to go ahead and put this in perspective for those who are familiar with Mt. Gox and the exchange hack and the impact that it had in 2013. So for perspective's sake, if we end up seeing the entire $4.5 billion or a figure near that being recovered for Bitfinex users and coming back into the market, this is just as relevant as the Mt. Gox hack, because we saw a lot of headlines going back a couple months ago in November about the settlement, how now that they've recovered the vast majority of the Bitcoin, they're going to start reimbursing people. But if you actually measure it in the sense of market capitalization, we actually see here that it's about the same. Mt. Gox had 141,686 Bitcoin, in this case, that are planned for reimbursement to users. So we're talking about another hack here for reimbursement. That's about 120,000 Bitcoin in total. The number is a little bit off from that, but again, generally similar range here. Really a margin of difference here. A major macro event here when it comes to the overall supply here for crypto markets and specifically Bitcoin. To put it in perspective, as we do have the reimbursement plan initiating here sometime in 2022, as it is planned for back in late 2021, and along with that as well, we've got what's going on with Bitfinex potentially. To put this in perspective, this is going to bring about over 1.5% of the ever-existing supply of Bitcoin back into the market. Think about that for a moment here. 1.5%. I think it's 1% at least of the ever-existing supply and 1.5% of the existing circulating supply. That is absolutely incredible, and it has major ramifications for the crypto market. Now, there's a couple reasons for this. No matter how this actually turns out, as we'll talk about later, that puts a lot of supply on the market, no matter how you look at it, because that Bitcoin in the previous hack mainly was sitting untouched for the most part. There was some transactions, there was some use of that Bitcoin, as on-chain analysis shows, and as some of the reportings discuss, but most of it was sitting idly. And that does leave a limitation of Bitcoin that can be sold, right, in order to drag down prices. So this is something we do need to consider. Now, I will say the market seems relatively unaffected by it. So this might be a sign that it's not something to be entirely concerned about. But again, markets aren't entirely efficient. Sometimes it takes some time for this to be baked in. But the major statement here that I want to focus on as we'll go throughout the video, as we talk about price later on, is around Bitfinex's statement here. Bitfinex will be working with the DOJ and follow appropriate legal processes to establish our right to return of the stolen Bitcoin. There's a lot of Bitcoin in the hands of the DOJ. And to be completely frank with you guys, knowing the DOJ and knowing that at the end of the day, whenever there's money involved, things may not turn out exactly and ideally as you want. The DOJ, for example, in the past has seized Bitcoin before from criminal activities, and they have auctioned it off to the market, effectively selling it, right? Now, we'll talk about that a little bit later, but I want to go ahead and talk about something really interesting here for those of you who have stuck around. When you think about a hack of millions, if not billions of dollars, when you think about who is the perpetrator who might have caused such an event, someone who's really behind the keyboard causing these cyber attacks, I'm really curious to ask you all what you have in mind for what that cyber criminal looks like. Who could be responsible for one of the largest Bitcoin hacks in history? Do you have something like this in mind? Perhaps an image like this in your mind of what a hacker may look like. Perhaps something like this, or maybe something cute like this. None of these images describe the people who were responsible for the Bitfinex hack. The Bitfinex hack was carried out by two seemingly quirky, everyday, nerdy type personalities in the crypto space. Now, I'm not here to insult being quirky or weird. I've got my unique characteristics and traits. I'm not a perfect individual, but you cannot get past, and I think this is all over crypto Twitter by now, you cannot get past the crazy personalities that these two individuals hold. Ilya, individual who actually really led to a lot of the macro data, the man in the relationship. It's a relationship of two people. There's Ilya, this other chick here as well, Heather, who basically had been sitting on this Bitcoin for years and have two of the quirkiest personalities I have ever seen. I feel like I'm going to get like deplatformed from YouTube, like allowing some of the stuff that's on here. But it's amazing how it starts to showcase how anyone out there can be responsible for these types of things. And to be honest, there were a lot of giveaways. I just think that people weren't focusing on them because they're not entirely popular in the crypto space. But the crazy thing is, she was a Forbes contributor. She had written in the past about, I'm blanking on the term now, but basically when you go about basically within an institution or a company, being an insider and starting to break into systems, right? So she had basically had inside knowledge in this case around Bitfinex and its operations. And I think that, again, it's always important to keep in mind just how crazy the crypto timeline can be, right? And again, I don't want you guys to like spend too much time on this, but if you really look at like the top posts, the videos and things around these two people, you'll find that it's just really strange. Like, they're really strange individuals. And again, I'm all one for someone being unique and different, right? I like meeting different types of people, but it's just like, it's weird. It's weird, right? Now, one thing I want to emphasize to you guys before we discuss about the price elements here of what the Bitfinex hack might mean for the crypto space, I do want to spend some time to talk about a platform that does care about security and user privacy. And that's our sponsor for today, which is Celsius Network. Now, as you all know, I'm a big fan of Celsius here on the channel. If you guys haven't heard me talk about Celsius in the past, Celsius is a lending and borrowing platform in the crypto space that allows you to not only get, in this case, yield on your cryptocurrency assets, but outside of that as well, to be able to go out and borrow against your crypto assets, so you don't have to incur taxable events by selling your crypto. Now, this is what Celsius has really done well over the past couple of years. It's its bread and butter. It's the main focus of the platform, and it's founded by Alex Majinsky, who I'm a big fan of and I've gotten to know over the last couple of years. But Outside of that as well, they've been really working on rebuilding the platform and offering a whole suite of other different services to make it more of an all-in-one platform for your cryptocurrency activities. So for example, just for those who may not know, you can obviously get up to 17% APY on your cryptocurrency assets. That's definitely one of those steps. But outside of that as well, you can borrow against those assets. You can buy crypto on the Celsius platform. You don't have to, in this case, pay any cost in relation to swaps. So you can swap from one asset to another on the supported the different types of crypto assets that they have on the platform. Outside of this as well, again, you can borrow as low as 1% APR against your crypto assets. So this is a really exciting feature where you can get really low interest rate loans on your cryptocurrency assets. It allows you to, again, avoid having to take on that taxable event. So you can use this for all types of different reasons and stuff, no matter what you need to borrow. And again, you don't need to go through credit checks. It's easy to refinance and no origination fees. Really big stuff. And last but not least, there is the Celsius credit card, which again has opened its waitlist. It hasn't launched yet, but if you guys are interested, definitely check out the waitlist. And you can do all that through the link down below in the description. We're big fans of Celsius here at DigiFox, my startup. We have Celsius integrated as a partner in this case for the application. So if you guys are interested, check it out down below in the description and definitely give Celsius a try if you haven't already. Now, I want to go ahead from here on out and talk a little bit about not only the really cool stuff here from David Puel, who creates the Puel multiple, one of the data science models we utilize. He had pointed on some really interesting points about how on-chain analysis was starting to give us some visualization that something was up here, that there was some moves being made here in regards to taking on this exchange hack of the funds that have barely been sitting idly for some time. So I recommend you guys check that out. It's a really cool little thread here. But the major thing I want to go ahead and talk about is, what does this mean for crypto markets as a whole? Either way, I gotta be honest with you guys, as much as I don't think it's a showstopper towards a coming bull market in the crypto space, unloading nearly 3.6 and potentially up to $4.5 billion worth of Bitcoin onto the open market, no matter if you do it through an auction, no matter if you just were to do it over OTC markets, or what I think is ideal and the right thing to do, which is to get those Bitcoin back to the original holders on the platform of Bitfinex, right? To allow for people to have a claim on those Bitcoin, right? Either of those scenarios don't sound like a benefit for Bitcoin's price, because all the while some of them, I think actually a good chunk of them, might actually still hold some of their Bitcoin. I'll put it this way. You're someone who, for example, experienced having an asset that had maybe grown a good amount back in the day, was doing good, it was this new kind of exciting asset, and then you lost it all. You lost everything. There was no official guarantee that you would get your money back. Maybe there was some compensation plans from Bitfinex for sure, but nothing that would bring back that original Bitcoin that you probably worked hard for or mined on your computer or had bought with hard-earned money. And then now you're giving that Bitcoin back, but you're not giving back as a total community $60, $70 million worth of Bitcoin. No, you're giving back billions of dollars of Bitcoin, multiples over any original value you would have bought that Bitcoin at. Sounds to me like a lot of people are going to want to take some profits off the table and go retire for the rest of their life. It could very well happen. And I think that we need to account that sell side pressure and how it's going to impact Bitcoin markets, especially if it's sold on Bitfinex spot markets, how that's going to affect crypto markets over the coming months. Right? So again, this plus Mt. Gox, I think together service as one major macro event in the crypto space. Although they are different, they are separate hacks, they are a major set of supply ramifications for the crypto space. And again, I think we have to continue to consider that in our analysis here and watch what happens here. More specifically, if there is a refinancing to users in this case, meaning that they get their Bitcoin back, what does the actual cold storage wallet of Bitfinex look like, right? The on-chain analysis that shows how many Bitcoin they have in deposit. It's obviously going to shoot up. And I'm curious to see from there whether or not people are going to sell it, if we're going to see more people holding it, moving it to other exchanges, whatever it may be. But I digress. I thought I'd end off with one funny image that I got off of Twitter, which is what it probably looked like when the DOJ seized those crypto funds. There's an old photo and stuff where they had, I think, people from the DEA, and there was like on the table, there was like a little bit of drugs or something. they photoshopped it and just have a ledger device there. Oh man, crypto Twitter never ceases to amaze. But in all seriousness, one little fun tidbit to know about with the exchange hack, or with this exchange hack, is that supposedly the private key that actually grants access to these funds, billions of dollars of Bitcoin that we've just been discussing, was supposedly stored on an iCloud account. Now, I got to tell you all, not a cybersecurity expert, don't want to pretend to be, but I don't think I'd be leaving a multi-billion-dollar Bitcoin private key on an iCloud. I'm sorry, guys. I'm like, this whole story is just absolutely nuts. It's so cool. I mean, like, this is the craziness of crypto. We are still in the Wild West. This is why Bitcoin as an asset is still in the hundreds of billions of dollars versus the tens of trillions. We've still got so much room to grow. And if you're here during this timeline, you're in the fun part of the timeline. Lots more upside to go. And outside of that as well, a lot of funny mistakes to be made along the way in the crypto space. A lot of things to learn from as an industry. Anyways, I digress, guys. Thank you all for letting me ramble. If you liked this video, if you had a good laugh and found some value in it, please consider dropping a like. It's one of the best ways you can support the channel. Share it with family or friends who are concerned about this topic as well and what it might mean. We're going to continue to cover it here on the channel over the coming weeks as it comes up. But until then, I'll see you all in the next video. Take care, everyone.